At long last, for your viewing pleasure, comes a special TrackMaster review that was scheduled a long time ago. Now, finally being brought up to the light, it's TrackMaster Den in Dark. Time to see what's good, what's bad, and of course, what's ugly. Starting off with these two greatest moments packs, we'll begin with Den at the Dieselworks. With much popularity coming as pictures of the two were revealed, I'm sure everyone has finally seen what this three-piece greatest moments set comes with. It comes with the battery-powered Den, which runs on one AA battery, a throwaway boxcar that is neon orange, and an actual first for TrackMaster, a flatbed, colored purple. Starting off this review, we'll begin with Den at the Dieselworks, which will just be the locomotive by himself. TrackMaster Den has become far more common, being sold by himself at stores such as Walmart. Beginning the review, we'll start with Den at the Dieselworks, and we'll look at the locomotive himself first. Looking at him from this angle, there doesn't seem to be much wrong with him, save for only a few things that someone can tell right off the bat. First of all, his lanterns, or his headlights, are not green and red. I'm kind of a little upset about that, but you know, if you have enamels and a good steady hand or a good parent who can help out, they can paint that in easily for you. The second thing I'm not too happy about is there's no black paint to indicate his front windows. And in my previous reviews of TrackMaster engines from Fisher-Price, you can tell I've always said there are no front windows, so how's the crew supposed to see instead of just leaning their heads out of the cab? Third of all, there's no yellow hazard light atop his cab. That's something that his wooden railway and take-and play counterpart have, but the TrackMaster one does not. Turning to face his side, you see on this large panel right here, this decal is nothing more than just a sticker. It's also impressive that they put so much detailing into the plastic to show his side rods, and earlier editions of him had them painted orange. Now if you go out and you try to find one, there's no orange paint here, it's just the same black plastic, which means you would have to go and spend more money getting enamels to make the right orange color. His wheels also have the nicks in them, and that's something I'm not too happy about. I know you've all heard me talk about the little nicks in my wheels, and that's just something I don't understand as to why. When I got Den, there was no twine in the packaging like there was with TrackMaster Bill, or TrackMaster Ben, I forget which one, probably Ben. But it was just that, nothing more. They have the steps for the crew to climb up to the engine on the front and in the back. And speaking of the back, let's move there, shall we? Again, we run into the same problem with no red or green paint in the headlights. But we're also missing the back window here, and you can tell with these cab doors that I used Sharpie to fill in the black paint. But whereas there's no paint in the windows, the cab doors are here, what sort of makes up for it is the plastic nibs sticking out on the doors to represent the door handles, and then the plastic here to show that it's the hand rail to climb in. Other than that, Den is one of the few engines to have the rear coupling molded in, sort of like Dennis, or Duck. Moving to his other side, we kind of see it's the exact same thing as I said with the first side we saw. It's not much different, it's almost the exact same. Newer models no longer have the orange paint on the side rods. But overall, the color and detailing is quite correct. But if there's one thing that I do not like, and I'm very sorry to say this, it is that Den's cab is too short. And if you're wondering why it is, give me a minute and I will show you. Now, everyone remembers from the TV show that his cab is actually fairly tall. And due to the motor that Fisher-Price decided to give him, this is why his cab is not very tall. It's one of these short, compact little motors. And thanks to it, Den's cab is rather shortened instead of being nice and tall. And I'll reference this motor once more later on in the video. But aside from this, I can't leave y'all with a defaced Den, now can I? It's also part of the reason why this hood part is so long and why his face juts out. It's because of the motor type. But overall, Den is a really good engine to his basis, which is the Rolls-Royce Sentinel diesel hydraulic shunting engine. He's a good runner, and I would heartily recommend you pick him up. Now, if anyone has had the old Tommy Henry before Play-Rail updated their models, or before Hit Entertainment running TrackMaster started to sell Henry just by himself at some track, everyone used to get one of these throwaway boxcars in this gray color. Den comes with one of these, and it's a neon orange. After filming some footage that I can't use, I had thrown out the boxcar. I had no use for it. It was just taking up space on my layout. But there's not much extraordinary about this. You've got the plastic molded out here, in addition to the two doors that won't open. And it's just kind of that bland, boring nothingness that nobody likes. It's just there. They don't want to give you anything nicer than just some silly little truck. And that's one of the cons about this Greatest Moments set, whereas it's really nice to get a new engine, it's their choice of rolling stock and the coloring that they give it. With this, I'm not too sure I was happy about getting another one of these little throwaway boxcars. If it was this colored gray, I wouldn't be so upset. You know, it would give me something to add on for the Flying Kipper. It would look a little more realistic, but neon orange, I'm not too sure about. So I'll move on to the final part of Den at the Diesel Works, and then we'll tackle Dart. Now we'll move into the final part of the Greatest Moments set, and this is also where TrackMaster, Fisher-Price TrackMaster, hit one of their firsts in the TrackMaster range, and that is a genuine flatbed. We've never had any like these, but you've all seen my makeshift ones. And I made these with the hopper car that came with Victor. I just removed the hopper part. But this one is the genuine first. It's just completely flat, and then you have these little small bits of plastic, so that way you know the load limit. But it's also been rehashed and remade in the fishing truck expansion pack. I'm not sure what it was called. It was more of a lime green with large square buffers, kind of like Harvey. The only difference with this one is that it was the first one actually produced, and it had circular buffers, and it's kind of the same all the way around. You know, there isn't much variation on this little flatbed. Now, whereas I forgot to mention this with the neon orange boxcar, the entire set came with the nicks in the wheels. The only reason that this freight car does not have the nicks in the wheels is because I changed out the wheels for some of my older ones. There's only one beef that I have with this, and it just happens to be the rolling stock color. I don't know why they chose to make it purple. It just doesn't seem realistic to me. Black or even this rustic orange I would prefer, but not purple. So whereas it's a first, it's not a very good one, just due to the color itself. Now surfacing for the first time is unseen footage of TrackMaster Den doing a run around a small circuit of track that I made. He looks fairly decent with his rolling stock, but he's also a very fast and somewhat silent runner. In this haulage test, I coupled up all of my branch line coaches that I got with the purchase of Oliver and the TrackMaster Hector. Den pulled all 5 without faltering or failing to move his wheels, so he is a very strong and fast model. He keeps his speed, and he also keeps a good look as he moves down the track. With TrackMaster Den at the Dieselworks finally finished up and reviewed, it's time that I moved on to someone that I've had far longer. I've had him for about a year now, and it's Oil and Trouble Dart. As usual, we'll start with looking at the locomotive himself. Yes, we know who you are by now. Anyways, everyone remembers when I first got TrackMaster Dart, and that was back 1 year ago. On June the 30th, I made a quick webcam video showing him off, so that way everyone could take a look. But now it's time I went for the in-depth review. First things first, he's actually very accurate to his televised counterpart, and that is they have all the little details up here colored in, which is just the silver right here. Here you can tell I used a black Sharpie to color in the exhaust vent, but there are no windows. No, none of his front windows are visible, and I can understand why, and it's because of the motor type they chose to give him, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a bit. Here, this seems to be the appropriate length. It looks very accurate to his televised counterpart, and what makes it even more unique for this model is that they put in the wheel covering over the wheels, so that way it gives it that more realistic look. The cab itself is just too long, and again, that's due to the motor that they chose to give him, and I'll explain in a few moments as to why. But the side here, it's just very accurate, and I like it very much. Now as we move to the back, I'm going to show you the 2 problems I actually have. And the first was, you can tell I definitely used a Sharpie to color in these back windows. And the second is that down here, this little part of plastic, it's not essentially colored properly to continue the hazmat hazard stripes. I don't know why I said hazmat, you know what I mean, hazard stripes. But it's just kind of a pity that you have to waste your own time and money to do a little bit of detailing that the company could have done. I'm no artist, so I leave that undone for purpose. You know, those reasons as for the review. The side is essentially the exact same as the other one when I said about it. And I know I forgot to mention these steps, but the back one doesn't match up with the cab door. And you have some railing here. The knobs to open up, you've got the little hinges there. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on that for you. So you can see the hinges and the vents, in addition to the doorknobs, to the handles. You can also see that we've got some steps to climb up, kind of like Den. You also have the doorknob right there to get in the cab, some railing underneath the ladder, under the windows, and then you have some railing here so that way you can have the crew climb into the cab. Now I'm going to go back to his front, and his face is accurate, it just bulges out too much, kind of like that. So now I'm going to show you why he is too tall and a little too long. As I stated earlier, you're going to now see why Dart's cab is too long, which unfortunately ruins the model. So, moving the track aside, everyone knows how you unscrew Dart. Top off. Everyone knows how you remove the battery cover for Dart by now. And that's where that tiny bit of plastic becomes a nuisance. The motor that we see here is used in Rosie, Thomas, Percy, With, and a number of other different engines, including the ballast regulator that you saw in my Mao repair video. However, this one works on a AA battery and can also run on a C cell. It's this kind of motor that makes Dart's cab a little too long, and that's just to house it. If you all remember what I said with Den, if there's one thing I would do to change these products, and it would make them fit more appropriate size-wise, it would be switching out Dart's motor with Den's, because with this motor, Den's cab can be somewhat the appropriate height, and you can have some window detailing there. In addition, Dart's cab can have the front windows like Duck's has. But it's just the motor that makes it too tall for Dart, and it also makes him too long. So that's my only genuine beef with the Dart model. It's just he is too tall, he is too long, and it's all due to the motor that they gave him. On my upcoming reviews video from HankAmericanEngine, the first comment about it was, Dart is a bit too big and too long. A bit is a small exaggeration. He is just too long. But anyways, you can see that they're right, and Den seems to be too short. So now that we've finished up with both the locomotives, it's time that we take a look at Dart's rolling stock. Up first, we've got the faceless troublesome truck and the crate. I'm just going to show off the crate to you. Just on this side alone, you can tell there's the plastic texture for the wood and for the screws that hold it together. And of course you've got that little indentation to make it easy to open. And voila, inside is Flynn's hose. This little crate has become more and more easy to obtain through more of those truck and track packs. But it's usually slightly different colored and has a different sticker inside. Taking a look at this troublesome truck, there was a user, I don't remember who, because I think it was Duck GWR8, and I'm sorry if I spelled that incorrectly, but he said that it was not too good, that this was not a troublesome truck. And it is here that I'm going to take a second to explain why I am so happy that this truck is not a troublesome truck from Fisher-Price. I can already hear some of you wondering why I'm saying that I'm glad Dart's truck is not a troublesome truck. And the reason being is, if you've seen my rail fanning on Sodor installment 2, you saw Stepney. When I procured Stepney, he came with that troublesome truck. That's what the face looks like. That's one out of 2 variables. And then I picked up a TrackMaster Mavis to update the battery cover, and she came with this truck. Now these are the only 2 faces Fisher-Price has made for their troublesome trucks. And that is why I'm glad Dart's is not one of these 2. If it were the Tomy Playrail one, where it's just a big variation on the different faces, then that would be a bit more interesting for me to say, okay, I'll go ahead and buy another Dart, because I get another crate, some more rolling stock, and I also get this really cool troublesome truck. But these 2 are the only variations of the face for troublesome trucks that Fisher-Price has made, and that is the main reason why I'm glad Dart's truck is not troublesome. It's just that plain blankness that gives it that unique kind of personality when it sits about the yard empty or loaded or semi-loaded. It just makes it feel realistic. But again, I reiterate myself, I'm glad it's not a Fisher-Price troublesome truck. Examining the last piece of rolling stock in the Oil and Trouble Dart, we get a 20-ton brake van. And we've all gotten a few of these before, whether it's been with the Tomy Stepney or the Playrail Stepney, or when Hit Entertainment used to run TrackMaster with their truck and track expansion packs. They made it more frequently common, and when they sold Lady with a troublesome truck, that was the exact same brake van they sold. In addition to the RC Percy with the tired expression, you got one of these troublesome trucks that was a rather darkish brown color. I would say crimson almost. Anyways, for me, my one beef with Dart's brake van is just the color. I mean, it's got a nice gray bottom, but, you know, it's just unrealistic for it to be that kind of blue. I didn't really like it. I never really have. And for me, it's just one of those things that I have to frown upon. Fisher-Price, come on, we want realistic colored rolling stock. Dart received the same treatment as TrackMaster Den with the unseen footage of him running around a small circuit with his small train. As I did with Den, Dart was coupled up to all of my branch line coaches and I sent him off. He pulled them with the exact same speed and strength as he did his smaller train. So for me, that shows that these two engines alone are very powerful. With the review of the two now all said and done, it's time that I rate these two sets, but however, I had an idea of changing up the rolling stock with some of them. With Oil and Trouble Dart, I replaced the 20-ton brake van with the ice cream truck that Hit Entertainment sold in that track pack that included the hopper car and the brake van that you saw me pop in earlier. I kept the troublesome truck and the crate and wondered, would this make the Oil and Trouble Dart more interesting to the eye to buy, as you still get Flint's hose, you get a cool freight car, and you also get the truck that it came in. I want to hear your opinion. As for Den, I removed that throwaway boxcar and replaced it with my Great Western Vent Van box truck. Even though it does look a bit bigger, it seems more realistic to me, and I would have preferred that over the throwaway boxcar, but I want to hear your opinions about it. Would you buy a TrackMaster Den at the Dieselworks with the neon orange throwaway boxcar, or would you prefer the purple flatbed Den and a big boxcar with buffers? I want to hear. With one review done, it's time for me to move on to the next one in the queue. Now, which one is it going to be, ladies and gentlemen? Is it going to be the Japanese James or the Thomas in the Truck's Japanese starter set? I want you to tell me, but wait, what's this? Why is there unauthorized use of this? Hey, what the? Oh, Well, I guess he bested fate by not falling off the edge of my layout, but now you know who's up next after he's been to the Dieselworks for repairs.
What was that?